Well, here we go, 9:01. It's another beautiful morning up north, Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. And it's tough to tell from that photo out the backyard, but there's some spots of open water showing up there on our part of Lake Wissota, way up at the upper part. Nice to have you along. And my guest coming up in just a minute, Tony Castañeda, is a candidate for state assembly in the Madison area, running in the district for the seat currently held by Francesca Hong, who's running for governor, who coincidentally will be our guest here tomorrow. Fran Hong joining us live, rescheduled from last week. So nice to have you here. It's Tuesday, March 24th, 224 days until the November election, 140 days until the August primary, 14 days now until the April 7th election for state Supreme Court and other local races, and perhaps most important of all, 2 days until opening day. And we finally get Brewers baseball back going on here. If you're new to the live stream, again, it's not the full radio show that we'd done, not quite a podcast, just a nice opportunity to talk live with some of the folks I talk to for stories that I'm working on for Up North News. And I'll tell you more over at Up North News about stories that include appeals court judge Chris Taylor, who is running in that state Supreme Court race. We had a live forum with her last week, and we now have an article on our website about that to tell you. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what's with the Bronco there, I'm not suddenly a Denver fan. This is for Western Michigan University, the Western Michigan Broncos, your defending national champions in Division I NCAA college hockey. I have a family out in Kalamazoo, including a son-in-law who works for the team. So last year was a great ride watching the Broncos go all the way to the national championship. The Badger women just won the women's national title, and now the men's tournament gets underway on Friday. So my Broncos hoodie is going to get a little bit of work between now and then. That and the Brewers hoodie that I finally get to start wearing again too. All right, it's time to talk to our guest, and it's all about the elections in November, and this is going to be a year of primaries unlike anything else that we've seen. I mean, we have 7 candidates on the Democratic side running for governor. There are 2 big-name candidates running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. And there are several legislative races where there will be primaries as well, which is why you hear me mentioning that August primary date so often. It is going to be critical. If you want to say of who's going to be on the ballot in November, you got to show up and vote in August. And that includes in the 76th Assembly District in the Madison area. As I said, currently represented by Fran Hong, but Francesca's running for governor, and that opens up an opportunity for folks to run and serve in the state assembly. And Tony Castañeda is one of them who is joining us now, musician turned candidate. Well, not turned candidate, you're musician and candidate. You can do 2 things at once. Tony, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a little early for me, I got to admit.
I am positive about that.
I mean, I am usually up, but I'm a little bit slower and moving slower.
Yeah, we don't normally ask. You're not supposed to be like broadcast ready, at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I appreciate you being here. It was just fun. Just doing a little background on you because there were so many great music clips to take in. I was not, being up here in Chippewa Falls, was not familiar with you and your band and everything else. You are extremely well known in the Madison area for that. So before we get into any of the politics of it, for folks outside the area who don't know you and your musical history and more, let's talk about your bio, and then we'll talk about the race itself. But Tony, tell us your story.
Well, good. That's an easy question. So I like starting off with that, I guess. I've been a professional musician in the Madison area since actually going way back to the late 70s. We started a band here in Madison. By the way, I grew up in Racine. I was born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin, and I came up here in 74 to go to school. I was an art major at the time. But we had a band. I currently have a band that's been together since 1998. It's a Latin jazz band. We got a regular residency at the historic Cardinal Bar here in Madison, Wisconsin. It's a Latin jazz band. We've had the honor of opening up for Grammy winning artists, Eddie Palmieri, a lot of Latin jazz artists, Poncho Sanchez, and we played with able to play with and the late Jerry Gonzalez. I don't know if these names mean anything to you, but anyhow, yes, I've been a musician well, for a very long time. And yeah,
It's
So,
it sounds like it's been extremely rewarding. Again, just really fun stuff. And so, of course, it begs the question, as I ask of so many candidates, what's a nice guy like you know, doing, wanting to get into this? And I don't say this to denigrate politics at all. I'm first on the list to encourage anybody to go into public service. And with an open seat in the state assembly, it's understandable that good folks would want to step up and serve in that. So I say that, all kidding aside. What's a nice guy like you wanting to do running for office and a seat in the legislature?
that's another good question. No, no, I've been politically active my whole life, actually. Um, and not only here in Madison, but throughout the state. So I've been a news broadcaster. I've hosted a political and social affairs program on WORT radio in Madison for over 33 years, and I've addressed and interviewed a lot of Wisconsin politicians, and we've discussed a lot of the issues statewide for all that time. Um, and you know, I thought about running before. There were other opportunities. As a matter of fact, when Chris Taylor first stepped down, I was contemplating running, but I saw that there was a good crop of candidates running, including Francesca, um, who I supported at that time. I knew her through some other friends who were women culinary. Well, they were cooks and chefs, and they had their own group, women who cook or whatever. And that's how I met Francesca. And I was like, okay, let's let it go. But this time, once we got word that Francesca was contemplating running for governor, I talked to all my folks and my family, people around me, my band, and I said, "Yeah, I think I'm going to run." So I've been thinking about it for months. However, I had to make a lot of changes, clear things up with folks, like I said, my family and my band, and say, "Well, what the hell? Do it." Now's the time to do it. I really believe that our country and our democracy is at a crossroads, Pat. Not only nationwide, but of course here in the state of Wisconsin. I think that Democrats finally have an opportunity. Democrats and progressives have an opportunity to actually affect change by taking over the assembly and taking over the Senate, and hopefully the governorship too, which I kind of thought it would be a slam dunk, but it's appearing that and I mean, we'll see how it goes. You're right. This is the primaries. It's great that we have that. It's great that there's so many candidates. I'm facing four other candidates also that are running. And this is Madison, right? This is the heart of Madison, the 76th district. The Republicans don't even bother to run anybody, or they will just as a cursory gesture, if you will. And all the candidates, we all pretty much agree on just about everything. There's really not that much of a difference. What I'd like to do, I'd like to help and do some campaigning for those close races so that we can take over the assembly. So I'm willing to support that. I want to see that happen. 76th district is 90% Bernie bros and girls.
Folks, it's the one around the state capitol. It is.
Yes, it's around the east side. So
and by the way, you raise a very important point there about what other people around Wisconsin expect from the people who serve in those seats, those bluest, safest seats. And if you want to see fellow progressives, if you want to see them as angry as it gets, you show them the instances, and I'm not going to name any names over the years, but the instances where people in safe seats never leave their district, never lift a finger to help get new colleagues elected so that they can get into the majority. Conversely, you have the two examples just from your neck of the woods, Francesca Hong and Kelda Roys, both working for governor, both running for governor, but both getting, even before they ran for governor, we're always all over the state out there to help other folks as well. And that's the whole point of this, Tony, is that it does you no good to win a safe seat if you're in the minority and you can't affect change. And looking at your website, there's definitely change you want to see. Everything from fully funding public schools to stop gerrymandering, stop the voter suppression efforts, increase funding to cities, towns, villages, and schools. And of course, immigration is a right. And yes, those might be all boilerplate issues, but I mean, it is you get the full impression from your website. These are beliefs that are very heartfelt and that you want to push as a member of the majority in the state assembly.
Certainly, and I'm also very much interested in also finding out more about what people up north. I appreciate the fact that Up North News said they want an interview. I said, that's cool. I love up north. I go there all the time. As a kid, I remember, my father worked at American Motors in Kenosha, and every summer, and my mom was a teacher, public school teacher, and they pack us 9 kids in a station wagon, and we'd go up north and stay at Shawano, Shatek, we'd go to Hayward. When I got older, I would take my kids. So I just loved being up there, and I love those memories from way back in the days when there were, there were cottages and there were resort all over the place, so you could just go. And I don't think it was much of a vacation for my dad, really, because he had to drive us all and yell at us all as we're all running around crazy. But I'm glad, and I think that the issues that are up north, and I think that people should know that, like Obama won up north. He won the outer areas. He won western Wisconsin. Then 2 years later, Trump wins it, or 8 years later, whatever. Trump won it twice too. So it's like, there's a lot of things that people up north need to understand about us. They don't need to be afraid of everybody in Madison. All the Republican politicians talk about Madison, and we're different, and we're not. We're all from Wisconsin. We love Wisconsin. We love the outdoors, and we also issues like water preservation and things like that really affect the up north and the environment and that whole industry are very important to us too. And I think that sometimes there's some contradiction or some conflict in terms of, like, uh, 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 what we got to say about wolf hunting, for instance.
Yeah.
Um,
But
and oh well,
that's the whole point, though, is that you're not. If what do some people like to say? If even my wife doesn't agree with me 100% of the time, or anybody that agrees with me 100% of the time should have their head examined. But again, it's on the bulk of the quality of life issues that there is a lot of agreement between the swing voters up north and the deep blue voters in some of the big cities. So let me put it to you this way: from a statewide standpoint, not just your race, but we've talked to Greta Neubauer about the stakes of this as well. What is at stake for Wisconsin? What changes in Wisconsin if in November, not just the seats in Madison, but the seats up north, if enough of them are flipped and Democrats win control of the Assembly, the Senate, and if they hold on to the governor's office, how does Wisconsin look different to you?
Well, first of all, I think one of our mantras should be, if we do have that trifecta, and get that, is we should say, what would Scott Walker do with this amount of power? What would Robin Voss do if they had all 3 seats of power? Okay, we've got to act fast. There's a lot of things that we can get done quickly, hopefully. And I hope that that's the, funding our public schools fully, funding our special education fully, getting rid of some of these requirements at the polls, which are unnecessary, making big changes like that. legalizing marijuana. I mean, we're all adults in this room, um, and we're surrounded by states who are getting great tax revenue and who are making money off of Wisconsin consumers.
Millions of dollars off Wisconsin
Yeah,
consumers. Yeah.
and it's like we can do the same thing. We don't, that's just one of the things. But the thing is we got to act. We got to act fast
Mhm.
on a lot of these things and do it. So that's why it's important for me, because no matter how glorious our plan for people for the 76th district might want, how progressive it might be, we'll have nothing unless we get those seats. We'll be in the same position we've been for the last, at least since Walker again. And yeah, so.
Okay. Well, Tony, I see that Todd Alba's watching. He has noticed. He writes on Facebook, Tony is part of the fabric of the greater Madison area. He's the real deal and the perfect person to represent working people of Wisconsin. Oh, and visit the Cardinal to hear his band. It breathes life into you. Thank you, Todd, for
Hey,
that.
Todd, it's good to hear from Todd. I really enjoyed listening to his show on the radio. Um, and
Oh,
also,
it was
we
you.
got
You
to
were the
mention,
one that enjoyed listening to his show. I knew it was somebody. Somebody had to like that show,
uh,
Todd's.
well, he forgot to mention that my band plays every Thursday at the Cardinal Bar in downtown Madison from 5:30 to 7:30. Thank you so much for that little ad there. Yeah, and we invite people to come on down.
And
Listen,
you're not done yet. I'm looking at your Facebook page here, and you just there's of course going to be all these No Kings marches and rallies this weekend, and you hear all this talk about those bad hombres, and your post up there says the bad hombres are coming to the Harmony Bar in Madison to support your campaign.
Bad Hombres is a band made up of some old friends of mine, some Chicanos, some Latinos, some Mexicans, some Anglos, and they're called the Bad Hombres because of Trump. Because back when he first ran in 2016, he kept on talking about the Bad Hombres, and they said, "Hey, we're going to be the Bad Hombres." So they're going to be playing music. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be after the No Kings rally, of course, which we hope everybody takes part in somewhere around the state in the country. It should be a big day for that. So yeah.
All right, Tony Castañeda. It was so good to get to meet you and to learn more about you, your campaign, your band, your history. It was nice of you to spend a few minutes with us this morning.
Well, thank you very much, and hi to everybody up north. I love it up there. Hopefully, I'll be up there this summer.
Oh, we would love to see you out here, post primary, getting out and getting to meet all kinds of folks who are going to love to meet you. I guarantee you that. Tony, thank you so much for getting up early. Hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, thanks, Pat.
All right, thank you. Again, Tony Castañeda running for assembly in the 76th district, again represented currently by Francesca Hong. And yeah, as he reminded us before that, Chris Taylor, who went on to become a circuit court judge, then an appeals judge, now running for state Supreme Court. Fran Hong is running for governor, and now Tony here would like to be the next representative. Again, it's a crowded primary field, and as the opportunity comes up, we may talk with more of the candidates in that district and other districts as well. I will say it again for the umpteenth time. This is a place where pre-primary, everybody's welcome. Everybody come in, talk about your race, talk about what makes things special amongst all the credible candidates who are running for these seats. And then post-primary, it is going to be so important. And again, I'll sound like I'm wagging my finger because I am. If your candidate does not win in the August primary, and then if you don't put everything you can behind the person who won the primary, you're doing it wrong. You may as well just put a Trump sign in your front yard because I have seen it just way too much where somebody doesn't win their primary and then they and their supporters basically go to ground. I mean, they do the least amount possible to back the person who's running, then that person loses and they go, see, I would have won. Well, maybe they would have won if you hadn't sat on your ass, because you were pouting in the corner. So post-primary, I mean, that's how democracy functions, is the people who don't win, they don't try to storm the Capitol and they don't take their ball and go home. You just get right back into the game and you live to fight another day. I don't have a lot to tell you about for headlines today, except a graphic that I just finished. I did not have time to get it ready to pop up here. But I saw the headline about Donald Trump, who criticizes voting by mail, just voted by mail for a special election in Florida, where he lives now, which is funny because we broke the story a couple of weeks back about Tom Tiffany, regular absentee voter, telling a podcast host that we shouldn't be doing the mail-in voting thing, even though he appears to be a regular user of absentee ballots. And so we've got a story up about how Tiffany tried to clarify his comments. It doesn't really pass the smell test. It's just another case of, we want to suppress your votes, but it doesn't mean that we would necessarily do it that way. We're going to vote by absentee because we know it works. We know it's credible. Tom Tiffany, the same hypocrite who in 2020, after the election, supported an effort to throw out Wisconsin's election results in 2020. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. And voted against certifying election results in 2020. That's the guy that wants to be governor and then be in charge the next round of presidential election voting here in Wisconsin. I could tell you more about the long lines at the airports. You, of course, have seen the stories. It just seems to me that, putting ice in the airports isn't going to shorten the lines, and it's just going to remind people about ICE and their uselessness, and that's where all of the money has gone, is into ICE rather than into TSA. Those workers who are not getting paid right now. And yeah, many of them are not showing up. That's their right. You're not paying them. And you're saying, well, we got the money for ICE, who's not trained, so we'll put them in there. And meanwhile, the TSA workers, the air traffic controllers, and others are stressed to the point of, and their ranks are stretched thin to the point of having tragedies like what we saw in LaGuardia. So perhaps Sean Duffy can stop doing pull-ups in the airport and stop focusing on people wearing sweatpants in the airport and stop defending Donald Trump not paying TSA workers, and maybe actually fight for the TSA workers, for the air traffic controllers, for everybody else that is necessary for air travel and transportation overall to work in this country. It's not too much to ask. As I mentioned, new on our website, if you missed our Chris Taylor forum, she explains why this year's Wisconsin Supreme Court race is vital for our freedoms. A lot of people are thinking, well, this is not a big deal, Supreme Court race, because control of the court is not at stake. It's actually bigger than that this year. It's not about conservative justices or liberal justices. It's really about an independent judiciary versus a wannabe dictator, a guy with no regard for the Constitution or for law, and who will either circumvent the law or foot drag to keep from abiding by the law. And the court systems that are going to be necessary in Wisconsin and elsewhere to stand up for the people, to stand up for your rights. And so don't for a moment think that election 2 weeks from now is not important, because it is a vital election, one that you should take part in. And Chris Taylor told us more about it last week, and you can learn more over at our website, upnorthnewswi.com. All right, there's a look at your headlines. Here's today's history lesson. Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory is 53 years old today. It's just funny on TV how some of these, like on Friends and other shows, how at first you kind of take them at face value, and then you go, how old are these people who are playing characters so much younger? But Jim Parsons is 53. Good job there, Sheldon. Allison Hannigan from How I Met Your Mother and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and other shows. She is 52 years old today. And football legend Peyton Manning is 50 years old today. One celestial birthday, Steve McQueen, the actor, was born this day in 1930, died in 1980. And if you've never heard the Sheryl Crow song, Steve McQueen, I would highly recommend that one to you. Let's see, I've got to put something in the notes here from today's history lesson. I got to find what's the cheesiest music video I can find from this day. I got it. Let me put it in the comment section right here. It would be the Bee Gees, because it was on this day in 1979 that the Bee Gees had the #1 song with Tragedy. Now, 1979 was not a time, the MTV era had not yet begun. So, I mean, this is a cheesy video in just the sense that it's It's just animation of a motorcycle rider interspersed with clips of the Bee Gees, but you'll get a kick out of that. So there you go. That's today's history lesson for today. Our question of the week, as we've discussed earlier, deals with the unpaid TSA workers. No, I'm sorry, that was last week's question. Our question this week is about whether the governor and the legislature should use part of the surplus to increase state general aid to schools, or if they should wait till after the election when Democrats might get that trifecta and maybe get themselves a better deal. One that uses some of the surplus to increase general aid to schools, which would decrease reliance on local property taxes and decrease the need for all those referendums. There will be more than 70 referendums on the ballot 2 weeks from now. And I don't think a single one of them is for something new and fancy. They are, by and large, cost to continue current operations because the legislature will not keep up with inflation because they want local school boards to be the bad guys. And so that's why there's talk of using the surplus to increase general aid now and provide property tax relief. But other people think that the deal won't be good enough and that there should just be a little cooling off period and wait and see how the election goes. So head over to our website and vote on the question of the week. And as well, head to see the Do Something calendar of events. Everything on there is some kind of an event this week in preparation for the marches this Saturday, the No Kings marches and rallies all across Wisconsin. All right, well, it's time for me to get over to my day job. At Up North News, Francesca Hong will be here tomorrow, candidate for governor. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to my newsletter. Head over to upnorthnewswi.com to get that. Follow all the news. Share our posts if you would as well. And thanks again for joining us. I'll see you tomorrow morning for another beautiful morning up north.